context is a critical part of all communication. One of the mistakes that's made sometimes within linguistics, I think, is to look at look at communication in a vacuum, so to speak, and to ignore the context around it, which usually the semantics is one part of linguistics that looks a bit into context, and also what's called pragmatics in linguistics, but that's not the same thing as pragmatist philosophy. It's different use of the word pragmatic. Also tends to look at context, because context affects what is said. The words that we're sharing now, they have a particular context because you're a popular podcast, you focus on philosophy, you have some understanding of the things that I'm talking about. If I say something completely outrageous, you're going to call me on my BS. There are things that are shaping the context, shaping what I say and how I say it, because I know that would be interesting to you and to your listeners, but also because I know that it can be a point of discussion. But there's also the fact that right now we're on video that affects certain things, because I'm dressed a certain way, I'm gesturing in a way that maybe emphasizes my speech that would not be there if we were just on a voice connection. I could still be gesturing and probably would, but they wouldn't carry any weight in the conversation because they're not part of the context. If someone is talking with their boss, there's a power imbalance there that's going to affect the way things are interpreted, the way things are said. So there's all these things that are part of context that goes on with every bit of communication, that is simply lost if you're feeding a bunch of text into something, going, all right, figure out what this means, that has no relation to the context. And why was this written? Where did it come from? Who wrote it? Was it written by someone that knew what they were talking about, or was it random BS? Was it written by another AI, or was it written by a person? Right? All these things are lost when all that is really happening at any deep level at this point. Pulling together relations between a bunch of contextless data is going to limit what can actually be understood out of that. And that's the same whether it's a computer trying to parse it or a human. If I just hand you a manuscript and go, hi, read this is awesome, and you don't know who wrote it, where it came from, what it's about, all that, you're missing some context that may affect how it can be interpreted. And there's shades of meaning there that will be forever lost. The other thing that is also lost in the large language model approach to communication and meaning is that not all communication is verbal. For example, if I'm sitting in the room with someone and I ask them to go open the window, they may walk over there, open the window, come back and sit down on the couch without saying a single word. But they still responded to my communication. They engaged in communication with me. I made a request, they made a response. If you write down that if you just write out the words that happened, all you see is, I said, hey, would you open the window, please? And that's it in a conversation. You don't know what happened. You don't know the context. It could be that nothing happened because I said, would you open the window, please, to my cat? Right? So you don't know. You don't even know who the other interlocutor in the conversation was, because you're missing that bit of context. And I think because of those limitations, which are limitations that affect human communication as well. I mean, I mentioned earlier the difference between if we're on video now, if we were not on video, if we were just on a voice, versus if we were just on like a text chat. There are progressive losses of context in that as well. And until there's some way to account for that in some fashion with the way that large language models process their input and the way that they then attempt to create appropriate contextualized output, there's going to be limitations in how they can be approached. Whether it's because there's no way to encode that or because so much of the data that's been trained on is already decontextualized data anyway. It's probably a combination of those things, but because of Peirce's emphasis on the interpretant and the emphasis on lived experience, the emphasis on infallibility and knowing that you're infallible, because AI doesn't know it's wrong, and doesn't know that it can be wrong. It's learned to say that when you ask it, but that doesn't mean that it actually understands that it's wrong. It can be wrong. Um, I think all of those things would be just like the top shelf objections that Peirce would bring to it.